Can you stare at the part of your body that you hate the most until you love it every single day? My practice last year, every single day, because I, for 15 years of my life, would wake up and look at my stomach and be like, ugh, you're so fat. I'd have a good day if my stomach was flat, a bad day if my stomach was bloated. And I started that maybe when I was 11 years old till like my mid-20s. Obsession with my stomach. Because I grew up in the Britney Spears midriff era where you had to do 1,000 sit-ups a day apparently to look like Britney. And that's just like not how my body is designed. Like I just naturally store fat on my body and I have curves and I'm a woman. We have that, especially on our womb spaces because it keeps our womb safe and healthy. So what I would do is I would just look in the mirror and I would just rub my lower belly and love on her and touch her. And sometimes it'd be confronting. Like I would like want to wear something like high waisted so I wouldn't have to like see my whole stomach. Do you know what I mean? When you like try to hide your lower pooch from yourself. And I'd be like, pull down, really look at the lower pooch, love the lower pooch. And it's an ongoing practice for me. You know, because I'll still sometimes find in my mind when like my stomach looks like more flat and I'm like happier with myself. And I'm like, are we back on the Britney programming? That we see that did not serve her or anyone in the Mickey Mouse Club. So we don't want to do that. But it's so ingrained in us. It's so ingrained in us. So I find myself like deliberately practicing looking my belly in the mirror and loving her. For some women, it's their thighs. For some women, it's their arms. For some women, it's their breasts. For some women, it's their butt, their face, their skin, whatever that thing is that you're insecure about. Putting that at the altar of your life and loving her more than anything and finding things that you can love about her. Now, I think chubby bellies are cute. I'm into the Venusian goddess look. Like, you know, those like Renaissance paintings where she's like lying on the couch with like one titty out, like rope draped everywhere. And she's just like eating some fucking grapes. She's got rolls, sexy. That's what I'm calling in. And if my man doesn't like that, it's not gonna work. Because I want a man that loves a real feminine, natural woman because that's who I am. But if I, get myself to get down to like 18% body fat and ripped and all the things, and I attract a man who's attracted to that, now I'm stuck in that matrix, So really the medicine was showing me, be your real self, because I do believe we have soul contracts with people who are meant to do this dance with, soulmates in our lives, partners, but they can't find you if you're covered in makeup, if you're dressed a certain way, if you have filters on. He won't be able to feel your soul. And for me, it really made me clear of like, the man that I'm calling in is a man of the earth. Like every time I've done any kind of psychedelic, starting when I was 23 years old with mushrooms, when I look at my face in the mirror, I see this Amazonian woman. Like that is my highest self. That is my soul self. And other people on psychedelics see that in me too. And I always have these long braids, like down to here with like tribal paint on. And I'm like this Amazonian chief. And that really is my energy. Like I have a very strong leadership energy since I was a child. I'm a leader, but really coming from a place of feminine leadership. And I saw in the ceremony, I transformed into her, and I was in a tribe and the drummers all around me and using music to heal, but also my word and my poetry. And it really reminded me my dharma is a poet. Like that is who I am. These podcasts are like poetry. I'm just channeling here for you. My music is my poetry. My teachings are my poetry. I'm here to take the intangible of life and transmute it into beautiful words so they can permeate into your consciousness and you can have the experience that you're here to have with it. That is my gift. This is my dharma is this spoken word. And it really reminded me of that and also allowed me to see my highest self. And when you see that, you're like, why would I ever try to cover myself up or look like something else or follow these trends when I am so uniquely designed? And we all have that. And you don't need plant medicine to discover that. Just sit in stillness. Since coming back, I have sat in so much stillness. I just crave it. Like I took an Uber the other day. It was an hour drive. I just sat in silence in that car. Used to never do that. I just always felt like I needed music on or something, do something on my phone. I just sat there, I looked out the window and it was beautiful. And I just witnessed my mind and how it moves and the thoughts I was having and the circles I would go in. I just was like, wow, so fascinating. This mind is an incredible one. And maybe I'll do a whole other podcast because the Wachumas were like totally different journeys. So let's just keep this one on the Aya medicine. But it really showed me that the mind is so powerful and it can solve so many problems, but the real problems it's seeking to solve, it never can because there's no solution. How am I going to find true love? Well, here's how, it's not quite how it works. Give me a math equation, my mind can solve that. But eternal happiness, I'm pretty sure the actual thing that's holding you back from that is the thing trying to solve that problem. So we'll get into the nature of the mind because that was really a huge part of the Wachuma. So I really want to focus this one on our own inner relationships with ourselves. And there are so many ways that we can come back to our inner medicine woman, our inner, priestess, our inner wisdom keeper, connecting back to earth, spending more time in nature. So something I'm deeply committed to doing every weekend now is going out hiking. I live in Southern California where there are mountains. I'm so blessed. If you don't live in a place with mountains, what is the nature near you? Can you go to the beach? Can you go to the river? Can you go to the forest? Maybe you have to drive a little bit to get there, but going to untouched places of nature and just walking. No phone, no nothing, just walking in silence and hearing the sounds of the nature is the most psychedelic experience you can have. And I guarantee you, just by doing that, if you commit to doing that, going by yourself, not with a friend where you're talking the whole time. If you go with a friend, both commit to being in silence together. Maybe you walk a little bit 5 feet apart too, so you're in your own experience. When we were with the Wachuma, we were hiking 12 hours a day. It was very powerful. And with ayahuasca, you could not hike because it's very inner. But with the Wachuma, it's more like you're really just like here in this reality, but with like way deeper thoughts. So being in nature is the best way, I believe, that we can all begin this, and then using more herbs in our lives, herbal teas and blends. There are so many beautiful ones out there that we can start working with. We're working with plant allies. We were really working with the medicine of the rose, the medicine of beauty, of the sacred feminine. And it's so funny because my friend who was facilitating, she was on a rose dieta. So for like many weeks, she was in silence and on a very, very strict diet that when you're on a dieta, you're not having anything with like salt. You're only eating like rice and like beans pretty much with no salt. It's extremely strict. And you're ingesting this plant several times a day and you're not in contact with anyone for several weeks. She was just working with the rose. And when I saw her on the medicine, she was a rose priestess. Like she was like Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene put together with like this whole rose garb. She'd like become the rose. So it shows that these herbs that we work with, they do become part of our consciousness. So the herb that most of us, it's not even really an herb, it's more of a bean that our society works with is coffee. So we all have this like coffee consciousness. And what's coffee consciousness? It's productivity. It's get things done. It's move fast. I think it's a helpful medicine. But like everything, it's a medicine. Are you calling in more of that? If you're more kapha energy, more of that earth dosha, which are the Ayurvedic archetypes, if you're interested in that, I've written 2 Ayurveda books all about healing yourself through using the elements. So if you're someone that's like sluggish, you struggle with lethargy, you have a hard time getting up, coffee is a great medicine for you. You want more of that in your auric field. However, if you are someone that's anxious, someone that can't sit still, someone that's like always needing to do something, always on to the next, and the only plant you're working with is coffee, then that's actually giving you more of what you don't want. So maybe you want to do something that's like more of a root, bringing you back to earth. So we can work with plants in many, many, many different ways. And also just working with our subconscious, questioning our beliefs, going through the method, emote, embody, express, the triple E method, doing the daily embodiment practice. I'll share my free one below. These are all ways that, the work of the medicine is really how we integrate it. And one thing I'm so proud of for myself is like, I feel very humble in the way that I receive things. So everything that the medicine showed me instantly, the next day, no ego, I'm like, let's do it. You want me to share without makeup? Let's do it. Restore right relations with every member of my family. Let's go in. And that's the beauty of it. And that's where we can get the most of it, Whereas I feel a lot of people go into medicine, they're like, well, I didn't feel anything, or I didn't experience anything, or they experience something, but their lives don't change. It's not a quick fix. The medicine can show you things, but it's up to you what you're going to do about it. It's not going to change you or make you do it. It just shows you things. And also some people have really, really strong egos that it's like the medicine can't even get through. And also the medicine knows what you're ready for. If you are not ready to dive deep, it won't dive you deep. A lot of people sit with the medicine and they have no experience at all because the medicine knows they're either not ready for it or it's not for them. The medicine path is also not for everyone. It's something that you need to feel drawn to. You need to feel a curiosity for. You want to study. You want to sit with indigenous elders. You want to really learn how to be a student of this. That is really who it's for. And like everything, it's seasons. There may be a season of your life that you're working deeper with medicine, and seasons of your life that God is asking you to really stay here in this human plane. And this is the plane for you. You can also have, similar experiences through meditation and breath work. If that feels more comfortable and safe for you, then that's your path. But if there's something that's interested within you, I would say follow it, begin to get curious and follow the breadcrumbs. For me, I would say it has been the most impactful thing I have ever done in my spiritual path. However, I have done 10 plus years of deep, devoted, daily spiritual practice to even be at a place to really open up, surrender, zero fear, medicine, show me whatever you need. I could not have done that before this moment fully. And that's why it was so impactful for me. And also that I integrate these things into my life. So it's also really about divine timing. Had I done it right after my divorce, I think it would have been too much because after a big breakup or something traumatic, it's like our lives are kind of like ayahuasca ceremonies where there's so much happening. So I would say really wait for a time that you feel stable in your life. So if you're in between homes and you're not sure what's going to happen next, you're going through a really hard time, that's not the time to go to the medicine because you're in fear already and it can just bring that further up. But when you're in a place that you're I've done a lot of work, I've sat with myself, I know my shadows, I know who I am. And I honestly, at this point, feel like I've gone as far as I can for now. That there's always more deeper, but I'm just ready for that next level. That's really the time to do it. And I'm so grateful because it took me places I could have never imagined. And that's just the first ceremony. We haven't even gotten to the second and third. So I'll do follow-up podcasts on that. It really shifted my entire life, my entire view on my life and who I am and what I see for myself and what I'm desiring, what I'm calling in, how I want to show up in the world, how I communicate, the people I want in my life, the kind of relationships I want, how I show up in those relationships. Every single thing for me.